Instead of scrolling on TikTok for hours and hours at a time, you need to be watching these documentaries. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your favorite artist, Lil Picasso. My real name's Vanessa, but you can call me either or. I'm fine with each. In today's video, I wanted to share a list of documentaries that you should be watching. These documentaries have sparked my creativity, have inspired my artistry, just have changed my whole creative life. I think like they're really good media to consume because there's a lot of media out that, you know, are good to consume and are not. You feel me? And a lot of them are brain rot. And I really feel like these will really like inspire, motivate, and really like, you know, push you in just whatever creative endeavor that you're in. So if y'all see me looking down, I'm reading off the list of documentaries on my computer so I can stay on track and not go on a tangent. The first documentary is Choice of Weapons. This is a documentary on HBO Max about the photographer and filmmaker Gordon Parks, the late Gordon Parks. So Gordon Parks, I'm sure you've seen a lot of his, you know, photography. He's photographed Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, just like he's captured some really iconic moments in history, specifically Black history. He's also a filmmaker. He's made a lot of movies. He's a writer. He's just a dope, he was a dope multi-hyphenate. Choice of Weapons was basically about how he used his art, right, his photography, his films, writing, you know, all those things to like as his weapons, his choice of weapon rather than like violence or, you know, verbally speaking out, you know, against, you know, injustices and just things that were happening, you know, during his time. Behind the scenes of just like his process, you know, people that were close to him, that knew him, you know, we're talking about him as well. And it's just a really dope watch. He also has a biography of the same name. The second documentary is Black Art in the Absence of Light. This is also on HBO Max. This documentary highlighted a lot of dope Black fine artists. It basically posed a question like, would you create art if like, you know, there wasn't a camera or there wasn't, you know, an audience to consume your work? It was basically, you know, just emphasizing, you know, like the lack of representation in the fine art world, right, when it comes to Black artists. At Amy Sherrill, Kerry James Marshall, I forgot the other one's name, but just a whole bunch of dope artists highlighting their work, what their work stood for, you know, just the different styles. And yeah, like it's a really dope watch. The third documentary is Quincy. Now, I've watched this documentary at least 6 times, maybe more. I mentioned this documentary in my previous video, which you haven't watched that, go watch that. Books that all artists should read, and it was a biography, well, not a biography, a memoir written by Quincy Jones, his latest one. Quincy is basically like the visual representation of that novel, even though the documentary came out before the book came out. But I digress. Shows like his work ethic. Like Mans was like 80 when that joint dropped on Netflix, and his work ethic was just better than like anybody else's in the world. It showcases family life, just all the things. It's about 2 hours, so definitely get you a snack, a drink, some more snacks. Fourth documentary is Chasing Trane. This documentary was on Hulu. It might be on Tubi. I'm not sure what you could watch it on. It's about John Coltrane and just his life, his artistry. John Coltrane is a saxophonist. I'm pretty sure he played flute at some point. Like, he's just really dope. Collaborated with Duke Ellington, with Miles Davis, and just a whole bunch of other greats. There was a particular point in the documentary that I feel like most people would like really resonate with. Essentially at the height of his career, and he was, you know, getting clean off of just, you know, being addicted on drugs and everything like that. He, you know, got to the point of creating his A Love Supreme, I'm pretty sure. When he was creating that album, he secluded himself from everybody, including his family, you know, essentially just map it out and create it, you know, with God. It was just him and God. He did it, I think, in the span of a couple weeks. And like that is his like most best-selling album to date. I mean, I love when creatives, really tap in with their spirituality and really like dedicate their craft back to, the one who gave them their gifts, right? God. His friends, his peers in the industry were speaking really well of him as well. And just, yeah, definitely go watch that documentary. The fifth, I believe, we're on is Summer of Soul. This is on Hulu. This documentary was created by Questlove, right, from The Roots. And I had talked about Questlove also in my previous video. Go watch it. About this particular festival that took place in the 60s. I'm pretty sure it's either the 60s or the 70s. It was basically this festival to just raise awareness for just a lot of the things that were happening around the world, right? With the civil rights movement and just like, I think like people were going into space for the first time. There was a lot of poverty. Like it was just a lot going on. And, the festival was just a way to just bring people together and, just, I guess, to help people kind of, get away from what was happening around them. And that festival was never aired. Like it was just sitting in like some boxes, just dusty. Questlove, resurrected it, and it just showed a bunch of dope singers, right? You had the Staples singers, David Ruffin from The Temptations, Nina Simone, Fifth Dimension, like just a whole bunch of dope artists just coming together for a good cause and just uplifting people's spirits. The next documentary is Sidney on Apple TV Plus. Really, really dope documentary about Sidney Poitier. He was an actor, he was an activist. Candid footage of just, his thought process, just about his craft, and again, like the people around him and just what they thought about him. Showed like how Sidney just carried himself. Like he was a very classy man. He, broke a lot of barriers in the entertainment industry, right? By not accepting roles that were very stereotypical and disrespectful, Black people. He was a beloved actor, just artist. I don't even want to put him under one label. One of my favorite movies of his is Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. My dad had recently put me onto that movie and it was very fire. It'll definitely inspire you to just carry yourself in a way that, is memorable, right, and respectable, right, to people around you and just whatever industry that you're thinking of tapping into. Next documentary is Stan Lee on Disney Plus. Stan Lee was the creator of Spider-Man, right? Very involved in Marvel. Just showed how, his come up, right? The whole like big risk and gamble that he took to create Spider-Man. A lot of the pushback he received and just how he just rose through it. Like he was a very, very creative individual. On the same network, there's another documentary called Howard on Disney Plus. Howard was a songwriter, I believe, one of many songwriters that is responsible for a lot of the, famous songs that we know, right, from Disney princess movies. He was a gay white man who just, again, broke a lot of barriers in the songwriting, industry. And it just basically took us, from his childhood up to his death. And just his love for telling stories. He grew up with his younger sister, and it would often just be the two of them, right, in their house. And when he would have to babysit her, he would entertain her by making up stories, right, making up songs, to keep her engaged and not bored. People around him, like family members around him, would see his talent for storytelling. Took those talents, right, to Disney and penned a lot of the songs that we know and love today. He unfortunately died from AIDS, and he didn't have the long life that he should have had. But we love and appreciate his contribution to these songs from the movies that we know and love. Next documentary is Jeen-yuhs. So this is the documentary about Kanye and how brilliant, right, he is. There's a lot of controversy around his name right now and just anyways, but we're just gonna talk about the positive, right? Because despite what's in the media about Kanye and just like what we've seen and everything, like at the end of the day, you feel me, you gotta give credit to that man, his creativity and his producing skills and his ability to collaborate with certain people. Like his creative process is dope. His self-belief, right, which people call very ego driven and delusional, delulu, or whatever, like it's gotten him to where he is. So like super motivational, self-belief, and just again, just his producing. Like Kanye got hits. That man may be controversial, but he got hits. He ruled the 2000s for real, along with like Pharrell and them. Argue with your mama. So the next documentary is that Black Enough for You? Because the title alone just drew me. Basically, like this film was about like the evolution of Black films. Black people in films, they were portrayed very stereotypically and just disrespectful, and just the representation was just not it. Black people in the industry, they took that power back in a sense, and they came up with the blaxploitation genre, represented themselves, in a way that was very actionable, essentially set up a blueprint for just how Black people are portrayed in movies now. The director did their big one with that, in just showing the power of Black people in film, right, as a whole, and using, right, your power, right, in the industry as a Black person to make sure that we're represented on film well. Incorporate all the layers to us, right? The emotional, the comedic, the actionable, the dramatic, all the different components to us, right? Not just the stereotypical, things about us. Next documentary is also on Netflix. It's called Rita Moreno, Just a Girl Who Decided to Go For It. It's about the great Rita Moreno. She is an EGOT winner. She's best known for her role in West Side Story. And yeah, she's a Cuban actress, singer, all of the things. And it just, again, just took her through her journey through acting, right? And just, again, a lot of the discrimination and just sexism that she experienced in the industry, essentially just how she took back her power in a sense, right, by just being in really like dope roles. She's also in Electric Company with Morgan Freeman. One of my favorite roles of hers is her role in One Day at a Time, the TV reboot of that. Really dope, super just dynamic in her speech. Especially for the my women viewers, like it'll be really inspiring, and just again just remind you just the power that you hold as a woman, first off, and just the power that you hold as a human being, right? And just essentially just kicking the doors down and just doing the damn thing. So the next documentary is Jim Henson, The Idea Man, on Disney Plus. Just geeking, just thinking about this documentary. Jim Henson is the creator of The Muppets, right? And he co-created Sesame Street. And oh my God, I wish that man was still alive. He has no business being dead. Jim Henson is an incredible and brilliant and creative and quirky individual. Just a huge risk taker. He wasn't afraid to act on his ideas, no matter how many side eyes and doubts that he received, right? He just went for it. He also made The Labyrinth. There's one takeaway, it's to act on your ideas. Ideas that you think are a little offbeat could be those very same ideas that change the world or change your world. So it's like just the power of having someone, a partner, right, that supports what you do, right, and is just with you no matter how crazy your ideas sound. So shout out to his wife. Next documentary is The Black Godfather. Oh my gosh, this documentary ate down. This documentary is about Clarence Avant. Clarence Avant is like the guy, he was the mysterious guy, like that was behind the scenes of everything that we've seen on television as it relates, like on screen as it relates to Black people. He is the definition of being qualified, like isn't everything. God calls the unqualified, right, and makes them qualified. Prime example of that. Like, man had like, I'm pretty sure, a 3rd grade education and was able to be in rooms with people that just are responsible for everything that we see. Worked in the music industry. I'm pretty sure he had a record label. He was very close with Bill, Lean on Me. I'm low-key blanking out right now because I'm just so excited. Oh my God, that man was brilliant. That documentary showed like the power of being behind the scenes. You don't necessarily have to be like in the forefront of everything to kind of just be great. Oh my gosh. Go watch that documentary right now, y'all. My mic died, so y'all are just gonna have to hear the natural voice. Next documentary I wanted to talk about is Sly Lives. Sly Lives is a documentary created by Questlove about the life of Sly Stone. So if you don't know who Sly Stone is, he was a musician, a singer, producer, bassist, like just, I think he was bassist, but just a really, really dope and multifaceted creative. Show just his humble beginnings, right, to his come up, right, and just like everything in between. Sly is the definition of do not put me in a box, because I'm gonna surprise you every time. I'm gonna keep you on your toes. Love that about him. You feel me? He's, you know, very known for his funk, right? But he was also in the psychedelic, right? The psychedelic genre, you know, R&B, gospel. Like, his sound was just, it was a melting pot. Yeah, like it showed, you know, just pressures of his fame, right? As just what happens with a lot of artists, and you know, with being put on a pedestal, and just what that led to, right, with drug abuse and just alcoholism and just all the things, right, trouble with the law, and it really just not necessarily condemned him, but just showed the humanity of it all, the humanity of just his experience being in the music industry and everything. And you know, he's, you know, since, you know, cleaned his life up. He recently passed away this year, but he will always be remembered as just a guy who wasn't afraid to experiment. A lot of, you know, just barriers in the industry. A huge fan of just integrating, you know, races, right? Sly and the Family Stone was an integrated band, and that was so just unorthodox for his time, and he did not care with his life, man. And he did it just so expressly and dynamically. He also got a book called Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself. So the next documentary is Toni Morrison, The Pieces I Am. She was an author who was not afraid to write the raw and authentic truth about the Black experience. She tackled topics like racism, sexism, colorism, just all of the things, right, that most people were afraid to talk about. Most people would wrap things up in a bow and be like, oh, it wasn't that bad. She was like, no, it was that bad. I'm gonna tell you about it as it is. No details left out. Her books were banned because of that. But that just goes to show you, like, truth is a core part of who she was, and she made sure to amplify truth. The nitty gritty, like, she was not afraid of that, and we love her for that. I got introduced to her by her book, The Bluest Eye, which was just about the perception of beauty from a little Black girl's perspective, and it was an interesting read. She was the woman who said everything that was on your mind that you were afraid to say. So the next documentary is Bill Rusell Legend, about Bill Rusell, the great NBA player, right, former NBA player. It just took us through, right, his humble beginnings, right, and then going into the league, and then what he did beyond, right, being in the league. Dope individual, you feel me? He's known for the photo, right, with the 11 rings on his fingers, and he had a very soulful approach and perspective to life. And he dropped a lot of gems, right, that are applicable to the court and in life. He came to a point to his career where he was like, I don't want to just be known for going up and down a court, bouncing the ball, right, and entertaining people. Like, I want to be able to be an active participant in my society, help tackle the issues that affect me off the court. And, you know, he's known for activism and just a really, really dope individual. You know, even though it's about sports, like, his advice and the gems that he dropped, like, again, like, are applicable to anybody, like, in any industry. Last documentary is Master of Light on HBO Max. The documentary was about a man who was in prison for about 10 years. Showed his life, you know, upon being released. When he was released, you know, he found a love and passion for painting. Really good at portraiture, and one of the things that he loved to do when painting is, like, he would use real-time references. So he would literally, like, sit in front of a mirror, his canvas would be in front of him, and he would use his reflection in the mirror as reference as he would paint. He would also paint, like, his family members and friends, right, his neighborhood. Showed, like, his thought process just with every painting that he did, and just the things that he's learned, right, while being on the inside. It was a really interesting watch, very intimate. Have any, you know, people that you know that are, you know, on the inside, or who have been released and are, in a sense, kind of struggling with, you know, what to, you know, get their feet wet in. You know, I really think that this would be a good watch, you know, for those kind of people. But I'm telling y'all, You watch all these documentaries, come back in the comments and thank me later. It is intentional that, you know, all of these documentaries are mostly of people of color, because I'm a person of color. Even if you're not a person of color watching all these documentaries or just watching this video, you know, these documentaries will help you develop a sense of empathy, right, for a lot of the people of color entertainers and people in sports and artists and just people in all types of industries. You can learn from them, right, whether you look like them or not. Come back and tell me which ones were your favorites, which ones you didn't like. Want to see more videos like this, you know what I mean? You could directly support me, right, by subscribing, right, liking, commenting, interacting with me in the comments. You know, I also have a shop where I sell prints, right? I'm an artist myself, so I sell my original artwork. I sell prints of my original artwork, graphic tees of my original artwork. Yeah, I'm gonna see you on the next one, God willing.